Hi, everyone. Happy Friday. I'm Sam Smake, your chief investigative reporter, and today we're going to be talking about speed cameras. Now, ever since they first got installed earlier this year in multiple towns, I've heard nothing but questions from you guys, concerns over privacy and legal rights. So earlier this month, I actually did a series looking into each of the towns that currently have speed cameras. So that's Washington, that's Middletown, that's Marlborough. And let me give you a look at what we found within the first town to have speed cameras in Connecticut, Washington.
Who had driven through town who had questions about the legitimacy of their tickets.
When I looked online, there was just too many red flags.
The I-Team started digging too. Our research revealed something interesting, mentioned in a Board of Selectmen meeting on June 5th.
So this has not been a smooth rollout.
That's First Selectman James Brinton talking about the speed cameras. The vendor told him they were having problems.
They're struggling with the technology. So the units that were up, they're now replacing all the software because they were losing connectivity.
Neary was issued a ticket the next day. We sat down with Officer Richard Nanaimo, Washington's only full-time police officer. He's in charge of reviewing each image that comes in and deciding whether or not a citation is issued.
When we review each ticket that goes through, there's certain parameters. There has to be a box that lines up with the license plate. If that's not lining up, we reject the ticket.
More than 2,000 citations have been rejected since the cameras went live in May.
Either not lining up, maybe you can't see the plate right away. Like if I'm not too sure on the plate, if it's blurred, we're not going to issue the ticket. Sometimes the computer will look and think that's maybe a 3. So that's they have to be double checked. Mistakes do get made, but we'll gladly look at every one of them.
Was Neary's ticket a mistake? The speed enforcement camera losing connectivity, new software is being installed. Does that mean the camera should have stopped issuing citations during that time?
Any citation that went out then, if it met those parameters of everything, all the boxes were checked, no. It was working through communicating, so we may have missed some speeders.
We still have more questions. According to Neary's citation, the cameras that caught her speeding were calibrated in mid-May. Those same cameras were recalibrated July 2nd after software updates. Does that mean those tickets in between May 26th and July 2nd would be valid because
Yes.
they've been recalibrated?
No, they're valid because that calibration lasts. Being that this is an electronic device that's stationary, not being moved around, that calibration is suffice that the company is doing.
State law requires cameras only be calibrated once a year. Officer Nanaimo says he understands people have questions and he's happy to give the answers, but he wants residents to know the cameras have slowed speeds.
What do you say to the people that say this is just a money grab?
And I tell people this all the time. Very few things are in our control as far as money that we have to pay out when it comes to taxes. This is well within your control to not be fined. Just slow down.
Ultimately, Neary's ticket was not dismissed. She could have appealed, but
I live an hour and a half away. I don't go up there that often. I'm not going to contest it in person, so I just paid. At that point, it wasn't worth me to fight the $50.
she still thinks the questions were worth asking.
Now, as I mentioned at the beginning of this stream, I focused on Washington first because they were the first municipality to get speed cameras. And I had heard from viewers and also just looking online through Facebook, I really started to see that there were some issues and some questions surrounding Washington speed cameras when it came to the calibration, when it came to issuing tickets. And what we didn't get into and what we kind of got into with the Middletown and Marlboro stories was the whole process of how they approve the citation. So the camera itself is going to catch you if you're speeding, and then that violation is going to go into the system. And like Richard, Officer Anaimo, said, he and other people then log into the system every morning and they go over that violation. So sometimes he showed us he might think that the license plate has been read wrong. So what he sees when he pops up is a picture of the citation, the same picture you would get if you actually got issued a citation. And he might look at it and say, well, the camera's identifying this as LVM when I think it's LBM. So he might reject that ticket and you might never get it. Or he might be able to do a quick search in their vehicle database. They have more access to databases than we do, and see that that is a legitimate license plate, and he can choose to accept, which would send out the citation, or reject the citation. And what we didn't have in that piece, because the day that aired, I had actually fronted that live and gave you the numbers then. I'm going to go over some of the numbers that as of October 30th, Washington tells me they have issued 11,776 citations. That equals about $590,000 and 590,990. At the time, only a little bit over 408,000 had been paid, but we have learned that the vendors who provide the speed cameras and the technology and the software, they take a cut of each citation, and they take a cut for mailing those citations. And so Washington said as of October 30th, they had only gotten $182,000 of that 590,000. Only 182,000 of that was going directly to the town. And we know per state law, they have to use that money for traffic reasons, to improve traffic infrastructure, that sort of thing. In Middletown, they were the second ones to get the cameras. We learned that they've written more than 39,000 citations. They've collected $1.4 million, and about $750,000 of that money is going straight to Middletown. And again, that was as of October 30th. When we first aired the stories, the numbers would be much bigger now. And then focusing on Middletown, at the time of our story, Middletown only had 2 speed cameras running on each side of the road on Route 66. But they've now since started and made their cameras live outside of Spencer Elementary and Moody Elementary. Those cameras just went live last week. For the next couple weeks, they'll be issuing out warnings to remind you that they're there. Then they'll officially be giving out citations. There's always at least a month warning period where people can start to get used to the fact that speed cameras are there. I got my hands on Middletown's contract with DACRA Tech, the ones that provide the speed cameras. And it's the same thing for Washington and Marlboro. For each citation that is printed or issued, the company takes $13.50 out. And then they also take roughly more than $5 out for postal charges for sending those out in the mail. So that's how you figure out the monetary amounts, because, people might be thinking Middletown themselves got $1.4 million. They're only getting a cut of that, and the rest of it is going to the company. They also have to pay $1,000 per camera, and since they have 6 cameras up, that's $6,000 per camera, but that's a one-time fee. And what else we got into with the Middletown speed cameras is the questions over the legal challenges and appeal process. You do have a right to contest any ticket that you get. You'll see the information of where to go to do that on your ticket, or your citation, I should say. They're not technically tickets, they're citations. So you have the right to contest your citation and request a hearing. In state law, there's only 6 detailed reasons for overturning a citation. Those would be if the car was reported stolen, the driver was operating an emergency vehicle, or you were yielding to an emergency vehicle. You had to let that ambulance pass. If the traffic signals weren't working and there was some issue with that, if the driver was complying with a police officer's order, or the camera hasn't undergone required annual calibration. We talked a little bit about that calibration. You should be able to ask for a calibration report if it's not included in your citation to see when something was last calibrated. Like we said, those are the detailed reasons in the law, but obviously it's at the discretion of whoever is going over your contestation. In a lot of cases, it's someone, well, in most of the cases we're told, it's not the officer who approved the citation going out to you. So say Officer Richard Nimo, who you met in Washington, was the one who approved your ticket, approved your citation and sent it out to you. He's not going to be the one to look over your appeal. That's going to go to somebody else. We do know there are still workings. They're still trying to work out a perfect system for, if you contest the citation, it's denied, and then you want to go further. It doesn't sound like there's any sort of courthouse or hearing or anything like that. It sounds like it's more of a virtual one-on-one with a hearing officer. In the case of Marlboro, they have a former DCF attorney who helps them out with these appeals. We went to a traffic attorney, Donald Howard, for that story to ask him some of the questions that I saw some of you asking yourselves on social media or through our email address. A lot of you were questioning the Sixth Amendment, the right to face your accuser. Many people were questioning whether, these citations are in violation of that because you aren't facing an accuser. This is just a piece of technology. And Donald Howard tells us, no, it's not breaking the law. The way this is getting circumvented is because this is considered civil enforcement through a municipality and not criminal enforcement through a police department, a law enforcement agency. So he says the Sixth Amendment really doesn't apply here. That goes into the idea, again, that it's civil enforcement. And it's considered civil enforcement because these citations, they're not reported to insurance companies. They're not reported to the DMV. They won't affect your auto rate or your driving record. But Howard says that sometimes can also make them harder to fight. Lawsuits in other states have alleged that these cameras cities and towns use these citations to bypass standard traffic court procedures. But again, Howard said because it's non-criminal and it's civil, there's really no argument to that. And what I've seen in many of these lawsuits is that they are thrown out. In Middletown, talking about how they feel the cameras have affected speed safety, speed enforcement, the Middletown chief sat down with me and he told me that before these cameras were put into place on Route 66, they did a traffic study and they saw within a week period that 180,000 cars went through that area and that 140,000 of them were speeders. The majority of them were speeders. He says since they've had these cameras in place, they've seen a 94% reduction in speeders. When they went back out and did the same exact study, they found only around 18 to 20,000 people were still speeding. So he says he does believe that this is working. We asked him the same question we asked Officer Richard Nimo, which was, what do you say to people who feel this is a money grab? He said similar, the Chief Eric Costa said similar things to Officer Nimo. He said, hey, just don't speed and then you don't have to pay money. And then looking at Marlboro, which is the last municipality right now to have cameras, as we've mentioned this whole time, it's Washington, Middletown, and Marlboro. Marlboro has issued more than 5,400 citations through October 30th. They started their cameras on August 1st, and they have collected $113,000 that just goes to the town. Marlboro was an interesting place to go and ask about the cameras because they are on North Main Street, which is a main road where a lot of people in that neighborhood then cross to go to the beach and the lake. And so when we talked to the director of public safety, Jay Kehoe, who is now retired, he said he's seen so many accidents because of the fact that people are just speeding down this road. It comes off the highway, and if you want to go in the opposite direction, go back onto the highway, you got to go down North Main Street. So people are constantly in the crosswalk. He actually saw an accident where someone was hit while in the crosswalk, and he said it's never left his mind because it ended up being a fatal accident. So he felt that North Main Street was the perfect place to have these cameras, and we knocked on some doors along North Main Street, and a majority of the residents along North Main Street actually seem to like the cameras, and they'd like to see more. One man, Anthony Basilakis, said that the cameras work great in the area that they are, but then you go, as soon as drivers are past those cameras, they're speeding even faster. Another neighbor, Jameson Amira, said he believes that the cameras actually make drivers more aggressive because now they want to go fast more than ever. Anthony, as I just mentioned, he actually has a camera pointed at the road, and he showed us some of these videos, constantly is seeing people try to pass each other and speed down right as they get past the cameras. So he's been actually asking for the town to get more cameras, and he's been asking for the town, if they're not going to do that, to at least pick up back that police enforcement on the road. And the way that differs is if you get a ticket from a police officer, the penalties are much higher than if you're getting a speeding citation. So it was really interesting to delve into all of these questions because it appears that speed cameras are becoming more popular in Connecticut. New Haven just approved a bunch of red light cameras and speed cameras that are going to be coming soon. And checking on the Department of Transportation website earlier today, I saw that so far, other municipalities with approved plans are Greenwich, Milford, as I mentioned, New Haven, Stratford, and Wethersfield. So we're just keeping our eye on when those cameras do pop up, and there's always a warning period before, and then they go live and they start issuing those citations. The DOT is actually reviewing plans for Beacon Falls, for Fairfield, for Hamden, for Stamford, and then our Luke Hydash had actually covered a meeting in New Haven where they're starting to float the idea of speed cameras for the city there, and it was a very contentious hearing. People definitely had big concerns. When we ask about the surveillance idea of this, some of the people that we spoke to on the street were concerned about surveillance and their data. The state only requires the camera, the police department to hold on to the data for 30 days, and then it disappears, and we're told the data isn't shared with anyone else. So we're still learning as much as we can. Like I said, I got my hands on the contracts, and I'm still asking those questions, and I want to hear your questions. So please feel free to email me, sam.smink@wfsb.com. I'm going to pop my name up here so you know how to spell it correctly. There's always a little confusion sometimes. And then also we have on our website, WFSB.com, under the iTeam tab, we actually have a form that you can fill out to reach out to me and to reach out to my partner in crime, consumer investigative reporter Cassie Williams, who will be back from maternity leave at the beginning of January. We're interested in not only hearing your concerns about speed cameras. As I continue to look into this, we're interested in hearing all of your concerns, and I'm happy to try to help in any way you can. And I appreciate everyone for taking the time to listen to this stream. Check out our stories. I showed you Washington, our story on Washington here, Marlboro, Middletown. Those stories are up on the website under the iTeam tab. So please let me know your concerns, your questions, and I'll do my best to answer them any way you can. And I hope everyone ends up having a very happy weekend. Thank you so much.